reading has been the way that I've done the work on myself. Outside of therapy and deep conversations with my friends and journaling, reading is how my perspective has actually shifted. Reading has done that for me. And I know that you only want the fun books, right? You only want the smut. You only want to read the things that will make you feel good, because the world that we live in is so hard. But baby, I'm here to tell you that you got to tighten up, okay? You got to read the things that make you uncomfortable, because it's going to make you smarter, friend. It's for the greater good. Get in here. I bet you still here. Why always got to fuss at you? Welcome back to Shelby and the Book Club. I'm Shelby Monet, and in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 or 6 books that have changed my life over the years. This was a very hard list to narrow down because I am ever changing and my perspectives are ever changing. My thought processes, I'm constantly growing. The things that I feel like have changed or added to that are constantly changing too. There are some books on this list that will probably be on this list forever. And just off the top of my head, like Their Eyes Are Watching God, I didn't even bother holding it up in this video. But like that is something that is just a staple. That is a book that forever is changing. Like every time I read it, I learn something new. I see something new. I feel something new. So there are some books like that I didn't mention, although there is one on this list that I will forever talk about. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Let me know down below in the comments what books have changed your life, and if any of them are on this list. Before we get started, make sure you like, comment, you subscribe, and let's get into it for real this time. Before y'all start fussing, I only found 2 of these. I have copies of all of these books. Actually, one of them I don't. Now that I think about it, I need to get a copy of, well, anyway, the first 2 are physical books. The rest, I will be putting them on the screen. Someone did comment and say to leave the pictures of the books on the screen longer. I will try to do that for you all. Give me feedback. Let me know. Is it long enough? Is it not long enough? Let me know, okay? Thank you. First, Beloved by Toni Morrison. This forever goes down in a book that I love. I feel like it's one of those books. Maybe I should do a video about that too. Like books that I feel like you should be reading at every decade of your life, because each time you read it, you're going to learn and feel something different. Beloved is on that list. And I think it's funny that I read this not long after my 30th birthday, and not long before I had my open heart surgery. Beloved is the story of a haunted house, right? It's a ghost story. It's your not your typical ghost story, but your typical ghost story, right? That really gives a deep dive into how tangible your grief and your traumas can be if you let them. You will live in a house with all your things, and you will learn to ignore them if you don't do something about it. And I think the thing that like people stray away from with this is that the main character is a slave, and the commentation on slavery in this book really rubs people the wrong way. I'm telling you to push past it. I get something different from this every time I read it. Every time I read it, right? And I think it helps me see how maybe I'm ignoring some of my traumas in the way that I refuse to heal them, right? Because Satha literally was living with a ghost. Like she was, it ain't nothing wrong with this. The spirit that live here, she all right. She just a little sad. That's all. Come here. She ain't gonna hurt you. What you mean she ain't gonna hurt me? What you mean, girl? And it really helped me turn a light on myself to say, which one of my traumas are tangible, and how are they affecting how I navigate my life and the people that I touch, right? How's the advice being affected by that trauma? How is my way of living being affected by that trauma? What am I just living with? And am I okay with it, right? And how does what I'm just living with not only affect me in the decisions that I make, but the people around me, right? How does it affect us generationally? Read, beloved. Read it deeply too, and take your time. Read it deeply, take your time. Cry, because you'll have to. Perish. I want to hug LaToya Watkins like a good sister girl, rock, just like maybe even cry about it too. Like one of those hugs, one of those soul wrenching, like, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Right? Because some of us come here to break the curses, and this is a curse breaker. This book is a curse breaker. I say something often about how I realized that, like, the relationship between my mother got better because I realized that she was a woman first, right? And even the first time that I realized that, I don't think that I realized how deeply that went, or how far of a reach that actually went, right? Parrish tells the family history of this particular family, starting with the matriarch, and we get a deep dive into her traumas. But not only that, we also get perspective of the decisions that she made, right, that were flat out abusive to her children, and why she made them, right? Excuse me. I never realized how many of us were actively making decisions that we think or thought were protecting our inner child. I did not think about my elders that way. I did not consider that the things that my mother does that I don't like come from her reliving in her mind the traumas that happened to her. I never figured that out, right? And I understood that she was a woman first. But when I say my mother was a woman way before she was ever my mother, that meant, like, Gay was partying. Gay was sexy. Gay had a man or multiple, if that's how she saw fit, right? Gay was working. Gay had fun, right? I never considered that she was sad too. This is why I tell you to read the hard things. You're going to see your people in these books. You're going to see your people in these books. And it wasn't that I didn't think that people were living their lives. Like, I've always been able to empathize, right? It was just that connection of, like, oh, this is where these decisions come from. This is where they come from. Read this deeply too. You're gonna cry. You're gonna be mad, but you might go hold different space for your elders. You might honor them in a different way because of this. It's gonna make you think. It's gonna make you upset. It's gonna touch you in some places you ain't want to be touched, but you need it. LaToya Watkins is phenomenal. Her Jasmine Ward, Zelda Lockhart, who else can I think of off the top of my head? I can't, but they are our modern greats. They are our living greats. They are doing the writing. They're doing the things here. They are. Okay, now I gotta pull out our homegirl, the mini girl, to talk about the rest of the books. So, Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. For so long, I did not like romance because I felt like it was cheesy, right? And baby, if I could go backwards and tell that girl to hush her mouth, shut up, girl. Indigo is one of those books that bridge the gap between the types of literature that I like to read and where I want it to go. I didn't realize that romance could be spicy and informative. I did not know that we could depict our ancestors in a way where their trauma wasn't necessarily the highlight of a book, right? Which doesn't necessarily bother me. That don't bother me. I love historical fiction. I want to know all of the things. I want to bear witness. That does not bother me. But I did not know that literature could, like romance, could do that thing, right? And even thinking about more modern books that I've read, Kennedy Ryan is doing that same thing, right? Christina C. Jones are doing the same things where they are having deeper conversations and showing a different type of representation while still writing spicy, steamy books. I love Indigo. His La Petite Indigo. I love this book for a whole lot of different reasons, right? The main one, outside of bridging that gap between literature for me, right, which is why I tell y'all to read the things that make you uncomfortable, read the things outside of your comfort zone. Indigo reminds us that we could be loved with our scars on display. We don't have to hide the things that have happened to us, because someone is going to see them and see your strength and not see the things that happened to you, but see you as a survivor. You are deserving of love no matter what. I love that book. The audiobook is phenomenal also as well. You should listen to it. Scenes from My Life by Michael K. Williams. It is his memoir. You may know him from The Wire. You may know Omar, because that is who I knew. When I was a kid, I had no business watching The Wire, okay? But I was smart, and I knew that if that man got the whistling and was walking in that heat with that leather trench on, you move out the way. Here, you didn't want no smoke with Omar, because Omar was gonna clear this place out. Here, okay? That's who I knew. I also would see him in Newark at the house music festivals dancing all the time, which was one of my favorite things ever. And when he passed away, may he rest well, I was devastated, right? Because I'm like, what do I actually know about this man? I don't. All I know is Omar and this dancer, right? And he looked so graceful, so peaceful, so happy when he danced. Like it was a tangible thing that you could feel watching him dance. So when his memoir came out, I absolutely had to have it. I had to have his memoir. And when I tell you, I so wish I could have met him. I wish I could have hugged him. I wish I could have told him how loved he was. One of my big takeaways from his memoir is that the goal is never to run away from where you grew up. We don't want to go away from our people, right? We look at society and the goal is to get all of this money and move out the hood, and to maybe send some money back. But where the real work is staying here and doing the things, talking to the children, helping them. And he, with all his issues with addiction and his self-esteem issues and just trying to figure out life, before he passed, he figured out a way to give back and to do the things and to have the conversations and to be with the children. I love him. I think about him all the time. I think about him so often. I absolutely love that book, and it'll definitely be something that I read again. Next, because I'm gonna save Jesmyn Ward for last. Next, we have Memorial Drive by Natasha Trethewey. Tiny book, tiny little book. An amazing memoir where she talks about grief and her relationship with her mother. Her mother was killed from a domestic violence incident, and she talked a lot about how viewing the decisions that her mother made affected her life, and how she was kind of just living with this grief throughout her life. as someone who is very close to their mother, I needed this book. I needed this book more than this book, more than she needed to write it. I needed it really like bridged the gap between like the things that I was feeling and why do I feel so affected by certain things, right? Why do I feel such a way about the women in my family and the things that they do, or do they realize the things that they do? I'm constantly watching, right? Like, I'm learning from you how to be a person, how to be a woman, right? Or how not to be a woman, or whatever the case may be. And just her navigating that grief. Something I think about all the time, right? And there were bits and pieces I remember where she did not realize, she didn't realize how her grief was affecting her. And I don't think I realized at the time that that was what I was supposed to be taking away from this book. This is why we read, friend. This is why we read things multiple times. Last but certainly not least, Jesmyn Ward. Oh, I love her. I love her. I love her. I love her. I love her so much. I love that lady so damn bad. The Men We Reaped. I honestly could have put anything on here by Jesmyn Ward. Like, we could sit and talk about Let Us Descend. I can talk to you about this book for hours, if you let me. Men We Reaped. Black men are so important. They are so important. They are so important. And for Jesmyn Ward, I hate that this is her experience, but a lot of the men close to her in her life have passed on, tragically. And this book documents her journey through navigating that grief, right? And this repetitive, you know, this man in my life died, and watching how the women have to pick up the pieces and do the things. And it really, it made me think a lot of my grandfather, right? When I think of who is that, who is the man in my life, right? Like the one that I idolize in some ways. It's my papa. It's him. He was a man's man. He taught me what a gentleman was. He taught me about religion, right? He is who taught me to pray. He is who taught me that there's no such thing as a problem for real. Everything can be fixed, right? Same way you can't really get lost. Everything is a circle. Just go back the way that you came. And losing him put me in a place where I thought I didn't have anything else, right? Like, who, what, when, why? I don't have purpose anymore, right? I don't understand how to do this. And it helped me understand that as much as we want to say that we don't need men, which I think is a defense mechanism, because not all of them know how to protect us in the ways that we need to be protected. We actually do need them. And they are, like, it is yin and yang. It is push and pull between the relationships that we have with the masculine versus the feminine. And being able to grieve that in a way where you take away what they gave you, opposed to harboring the loss is very important, right? Knowing that they did leave you with something. They left us with something, right? Is important. Jesmyn Ward's journey through grief and how she writes it should be studied. It should be studied. You can feel her, and I think that's something that's missing with a lot of literature nowadays. We can't feel you. I can't feel you. You may be able to tell a very good story, but is it well written, right? And that combination of a well written and a well told story is how we feel you. Men We Reaped it lives rent free in my head, and I feel like I'm honored to be able to say that I've read through all of her work, and I can see the growth and I can see the connections across her life, right? Like when we talk about the men we reaped and then we go into something like Let Us Descend, knowing that she lost her partner, right, her husband, and that she is navigating being a parent, right, by herself now, right? She has 2 babies. Seeing the connection between who she was writing something like a Men We Reap to Let Us Descend, right? And how all of those things are connected. I love that lady. And if I ever get to meet her, I'm probably just gonna holler in her face. Like, I'm just gonna yell. I'm just gonna yell. I'm not gonna be no good. I love her so much. I love her so much. So if any of these books you've read, you've enjoyed, are they books that have changed your life? Please let me know down in the comments. If no one has told you, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. You are kind, you are smart, you are important. If to no one else, to me. Bye, friends.